I, 30M, have lost respect for my wife, 28F. How do I get it back? My wife and I have been together for 1 year. She recently told me that I have been bossing her around, talking down to her, and exploding over small things. I have noticed that I've been irritable, but I hadn't realized my behavior towards her had changed. She basically told me to get my SHT together or she'd leave me. I apologized and said that I would stop acting this way. Problem is I haven't, and in the moment I don't even realize I'm doing it. I'm struggling to understand my behavior since I've never treated her this way before. Sure, I've been irritable and overreacted to small confrontations during really stressful times, but it's usually pretty obvious that's what's going on, and I can see it as it happens. But this time is different. Simply, getting my SHT together isn't working, and I feel I need to understand where this is coming from in order to resolve it. Having gone through recent events, the only thing I can think of that coincides with the change in behavior is that she recently let a toxic friend back into her life. The friend in question is one she's known all her life, since they were in kindergarten. The friend has a history of belittling my wife and generally acting very toxic towards her. She has done a number on her self-esteem throughout her life, and was the direct cause for 2 suicide attempts, by my wife, when she was younger. Last year they cut contact when the friend told my wife that her problems made the friend sick, and that her messages were pathetic and disgusting. She told her that she'd never lead a normal life, and that I was only with her out of pity. Needless to say, this led to a massive fight, and subsequently to no contact between them. In the following months, my wife was struggling with the loss of this friend, and on numerous occasions wanted to call her to apologize. I supported her in this time and helped to push through the grief, eventually to a point where she was happy that the last toxic person was out of her life. Since then, she has made massive improvements on her well-being. She's gained a lot of weight, having been severely underweight due to an eating disorder. She quit smoking and was told by her family, friends, schoolmates, and myself that she had brightened up so much that she looked like a completely different person. Her family especially have been ecstatic to see the improvement in her, given all the hard times that they have seen her endure. Anyway, my wife recently got a new phone and had forgotten to block said friend on it. It had simply been out of mind for so long. The friend then texts her shortly after New Year's. She says that she regrets how it ended between them, and that she wants to be a part of her life. Immediately, my wife starts having anxiety over this. She hadn't answered the friend in this stage, but she couldn't focus on her studies. She starts smoking again, and has nightmares daily until she finally responds, in order to somehow end the misery. It leads to a phone call between them, where the friend says that my wife can't just cut her out when they've known each other for so long. When my wife tells her how the friend's behavior has affected her, she proceeds to put the entire blame on my wife, and says that if she has a problem with anything the friend does, then she should have said something in the moment. She can't be held responsible if she's not told that her behavior is unacceptable. This line of reasoning seems absolutely insane to me, given the fact that the things she says are objectively cruel. No one would need to be told that telling people they're disgusting and won't ever have a normal relationship is messed up. But my wife's take on it is that the friend was right, and that it was all her own fault because she didn't stand up to the friend in the moment. I was livid. I must admit that I reacted pretty poorly in this situation. I've never met the friend in person, but I hate her with a fury, and I didn't hold back telling my wife what I felt about the friend. Eventually we calmed down and agreed that my wife should talk with more people than me about continuing the relationship with this person. Everyone, literally everyone, she talked to said that she should ghost her and block her immediately. Her mother, sisters, friends, counselors, everyone told her that this person was bad for her, and that she shouldn't pursue it. My wife even admitted it herself, and I thought that'd be the end of it. Turns out it wasn't. Instead, it turns out she had started lying and was talking with the friend in secret. Eventually I found out and she made me promise not to tell her family. She also accused me of being controlling and that I had no say in who she chooses to talk to. I do agree with the fact that you can't control other people's relationships, and I apologized and said that of course, she knows what's best for her and if this is her mistake to make, she's allowed to make it. What has been nagging me since then is that she regularly gives little updates on how much the friend has changed and how sweet she is now, but a few days later it always turns out that the things she's praising the friend for didn't actually happen that way, and was actually said was in reality very different way, and significantly more judgmental and negative. It's weird because when she admits that the friend was actually being toxic again, It's like she knows, but then forgets again the day after. Explaining it away like, "I probably just misunderstood, in my view. The friend is just playing nice," while slowly reintroducing the old patterns, and my wife is in complete denial about it. This is around the time when I started acting out on her. In some of the arguments, I've called her pathetic for starting smoking again. In her words, I boss her around like she can't think for herself. I've stopped spending time with her, and am constantly busy with other stuff. During one of the times when it turned out the sweet things the friend said was actually really judgmental and dismissive, I remember thinking that she was weak and I felt contempt. I think it's wrong of me to feel that way, but even though I consciously agree that it's her mistake to make, and that I can't and shouldn't even try to force her actions, I can't help to feel that she's less than what she used to be. I don't understand her reasoning for continuing a relationship with this person after everything she's done, and with all the proof that she hasn't changed. Now I'm lying to her family about the two of them talking, and I don't feel good about that either. Like I'm enabling her substance abuse or something. I want to be compassionate and understanding, but on the inside I'm fuming. She doesn't deserve to be treated badly by me for this, but I don't know what I can do to get past these feelings. Maybe I'm being selfish and irrational, but I can't talk to her family about it, and I can't say anything to my friends or family either. Not without revealing too much about her personal history. I don't know how to get out of this cycle. What should I do? Too long did not read. My wife has rekindled a friendship with a toxic person she had cut off before, against the recommendations of myself, her family, counselors, and friends. She's now in denial about said person still being toxic, and I feel angry and lost that she's hurting herself again with this relationship. Especially since her well-being and mental health has recovered enormously after they cut contact last year. I can't help to think she doesn't know what's best for her, and I want a way back to compassion and love, not anger and contempt. I wonder if it would help you to see this not as a relationship between friends, but between an abuser and a victim that's been going on for years. Perhaps that would help you react to this admittedly difficult situation with more patience and compassion than you currently feel. Your wife is trapped in a cycle with this person. In most abusive relationships it takes more than one attempt to get out. You might also look into some resources around supporting a loved one trying to break off an abusive relationship. I think it's a red flag to bring up a prenup before you even meet. He doesn't. F32M40. For clarification, I don't find prenups to be a red flag. Update. After he confirmed he'd been married before, I responded, "Gotcha," because I wasn't sure what else to say. He asked, "Do you find that off-putting?" I responded, "I don't find prenups or previous marriage off-putting. I find your immediate response to future marriage being a prenup off-putting. And your words describing it negative and jaded sounding. We will see. Me F32. Him M40. I matched with a guy the other day. We've set up a date for this Thursday to meet. We seem to have a lot in common and similar outlooks on life. We've been talking consistently since matching. Today we were talking more in depth what we were looking for, and I said although I'm not looking to rush anything, ultimately I'd like to find my person and get married someday." This is how he responded. Marriage would have to involve a prenup. The contract with the state is cumbersome, and I don't agree with a corporate judge ruling in the interest of the state while it's truly a personal matter. It prompted me to ask if he'd ever been married before. He said yes, for 3 years over 5 years ago. He has no children, though. I honestly have no issue signing a prenup. I just find it off-putting to mention it in a texting conversation before you've even met. Should I still meet him? Seems such an aggressive statement to make before face-to-face interaction. I don't even know how to respond to him. I would understand being upset if he brought up prenups out of thin air, but the topic of marriage came up. If it puts you off, it puts you off, but I really don't see how it's aggressive. I mean, I personally would rather know early on, and throwing this info in during a discussion about looking for our respective future plans totally makes sense to me. I see where you're coming from because it can absolutely be a jarring topic to discuss, especially when you aren't expecting it. I think would give him the benefit of the doubt here, though. He's just being straightforward with his expectations. Just like a discussion on red flags or needs in a relationship. No need to waste time if you wouldn't sign a prenup. I don't see an issue with bringing it up in this context. My 30F boyfriend, 35M, wants to become a professional singer, but he sings off-key pretty often. My boyfriend has invested thousands of dollars in singing lessons during the past 10+ years. He's had at least 7 different singing teachers that I know of. He goes to a studio to record a few covers every month. He loves singing and wants to become a professional singer. His voice is powerful, resonant, quite beautiful in my opinion. There's only one problem. I've heard him sing both live and recorded, and he often sings out of tune. He has never worked in his life. His parents support him financially. I am worried he will keep chasing this dream and basically throw his life away while hoping to make his passion into his job. He knows that he sings out of tune sometimes, we've talked about it. He can tell there's something wrong but cannot seem to change it. I want to help him but I'm not sure how. Should I suggest singing lessons again? Tell him I think he'll never be paid by someone to sing? He has an artistic personality and is very fragile, so I'm not sure. Tough love is the answer. Why doesn't he have a job? I would be really worried about him being a manchild, more so than whether or not he sings well. His parents can't provide for him forever. Don't worry about the quality of his signing. Worry about what he contributes to your relationship and household. He could be a crap singer, but if he still works hard and puts effort in other ways, it shouldn't matter. Sounds like he is putting all his eggs into one basket. Get him to sing the first verse of 100 well-known songs, along with the original or on karaoke, plus correct him on every song he gets wrong. But yeah, seems like his internal ear isn't great. He's had singing lessons for 10 years, he knows he can't sing on key. He doesn't want to hear it, just like he doesn't want to hear that he'll never be a professional singer or that he needs to get a real job. He's a 35-year-old child that won't grow up. I, 35M, found my wife, 42F, to be planning a long-term affair to finish school and clear debt. Sorry if this is a long one, been stewing a while. Also typing this on the phone, so may have some bad grammar, misspellings. I had some red flags while I visited my in-laws for the holidays. My wife invited a co-worker who helped her drop a vehicle off at the airport for our return. She worked over holidays and planned to meet us until all flights were cancelled. She told me that he came into the house, with one of his kids and wife who waited in the vehicle. When I returned home, I mentioned I wasn't happy to learn some random guy the first never met was in my house. She deflected at a female coworker I had over 2 years ago and that it was the same thing, she never came into my house or ever hung out outside of work. These thoughts and flags consumed me and I decided to look at her texts later that weekend only to find what I stated in the title. Complete with how she needed to play the game for 2 years to get on her feet, and how she was risking everything. He, 30 male, agreed with all of her rules and they planned every moment they could be together at work or school. I later found more texts that weekend further laying a foundation to include they couldn't see other people despite both cheating on their spouses. I have 3 kids, he and his wife have 2. I contact his wife and we start finding even more stuff and talking crap on both me and his wife. I record everything I can and we plan to confront them together. We do it the next day when we find them together at their school. My wife asks if I planned a divorce and I said yes. I ask her what she would do with her stuff, she says she needs to start packing and leaves. My wife is only concerned that we have joint custody of the kids, storms off, and destroys all of her devices because she thinks I'm tracking her. I go home to find her packing. She bawls her eyes out saying she never meant to hurt me and feels terrible for everything. Saying despite the 2 years of friendship, they only kissed the day I found the messages. I actually believe this due to the messages, things like, "I guess we're official," and, "Will you be my boyfriend?" I leave the house for some errands and return to see she's not there. She wouldn't tell me where she was, only that she was safe. I later learn it was a Airbnb that she rented until she found something more permanent. He leaves his wife and joins mine where she later tells me they consummated their relationship. Over the next few days I lie to the children that mom had to work a lot, and we wait until the beginning of the weekend to tell them that mom would no longer live in the house with us. We did it together and tried to stay united. She makes a plan to hang out with the kids the following Monday and to start packing more of her stuff. Sunday night before that day, she hacks into one of my accounts and sees all the messages between his wife and I. I spoke a lot about fighting for my children and adding context to specific things my wife mentioned in texts with her new boyfriend. My wife goes into a rage, asking me how it felt to have my privacy violated, and turns toward specific things I said while angry about fighting for my kids. My wife then decides to take a bunch of RX meds for her mental health and doesn't contact me until 4 p.m. the day we are to pack. I made contact earlier in the day with her boyfriend who claims she's groggy but doing okay. When she calls me at 4 p.m., she's noticeably on drugs, tells me she took an entire bottle. She's never done this in the 11 years together, and claims 16 years sober, and hopes I regret causing her to take her own life. I contact Ems, demand the address from her boyfriend and rush to the house. He arrives shortly after. I have a long talk with her while she cuddle him. She remembers nothing until late evening on Tuesday, and leave her with him. She attempts to get into the house on Tuesday to get her things, but I told her and her boyfriend she will not be near the kids while on drugs and he's not allowed anywhere near my kids. I speak to her parents that day, wanted her to explain to them, but by this point didn't want the first call to be about a funeral. They are more than devastated but are willing to help me any way possible. She comes back drug-free on Wednesday to move her stuff. She learned how to use a dolly that day. I inform her I spoke to her parents. She's upset, but understands why I did. We take the kids together for dinner that night and she leaves. Over the rest of the week she sees the kids often as we try and find a new normal. At this point my work schedule has completely shifted and I have a great group I work with that are more than supportive. This is where I'm struggling now. The following week, she asks to take the kids to the new place. I agree as long as he's nowhere near them. Her and her boyfriend agree to this. While he wasn't there, she made no effort to try and conceal that she's living with a new man. My kids see everything that's his, and when I pick them up to leave, my son mentions how much this guy is like me and must be a good roommate. Hits me like a blade through the heart on top of all the emotional trauma the last few weeks have been. I want things to remain cordial, and have equal parenting rights so the kids have their mother, but it's getting harder to know they will eventually find out the truth and how that will go for them. For now, the kids believe that we are not together because we fight too much. She apologized for not doing as much to conceal it, and states that at least they didn't meet him or know his name. Too long did not read. My wife of 11 years ran out of the house with her new man, wants to remain civil, and makes little effort to conceal to the kids she's with someone else. There are some things that are truly unforgivable in marriage and this is one of them. She not only blew your relationship, but she's traumatizing the children as well. The only thing you can do right now is try to create a healthy environment for the kids and put on a happy face. I would obviously keep a record of everything because this is absolutely going to be important for the divorce. How old are your kids? I think you really need to at least inform them of what's going on because the last thing you want is her to alienate you. You can't cover it up and let your kids grow up thinking that this abrupt life change was an equal decision. It'll be a lot harder down the road.